Hey there, everybody.
Hi guys.
Just going to give you a little bit of a tour of an interesting someplace not everybody knows about near Zion National Park in near Springdale, Utah. It is Grafton, Utah. It's a ghost town, basically a abandoned town that existed from 1859 to 1944. It has been abandoned. There are a handful of buildings left that have been preserved by a heritage foundation. We'll put a link below to that. And they keep and maintain what's left of the town as a memory to what existed here. So we're going to take you a little bit around the town itself as well as the cemetery. So let's take a look at what's left of Grafton.
Come on, let's go.
Grafton was established, I think, around 1850. So there's not many buildings that are remaining here, but the cemetery is one of the recognizable places. And it's maintained by the Grafton Heritage Partnership Project. So these gravestones all date back to the 1860s, 1870s, looks like. And the town at one time extended about a half mile past this, off in the distance. And very few buildings remain there, except for just a handful that we'll visit shortly. But this is the cemetery for the ghost town of Grafton. This information sign here tells a little bit about some of the folks who are buried here. Looks like the oldest one here, John William York, 10 years old, diphtheria. Looks like 3 of the York children passed away at 10 years, 3 years, and 5 years from diphtheria. That's too bad. 2 of the young Field children died of diphtheria, as well as their mother, who was 37. And I believe the biggest memorials here belong to the Berries. And I believe these markers here in the center belong to the Berry family. Yep, Joseph S. Berry and the children from the 1800s. Looks like Joseph Berry was killed by Indians in 1866. April 2, 1866. The last residents here left in about 1944, and that was it. The population started declining in the early 1900s because of the floodplain, the town constantly flooding. But there's some elements that remain, and one of those elements here is the cemetery. After reading the inscription for Joseph Berry's, which we just looked at, Navajo were living to the south, and Navajo raiders stole cattle and horses, and it basically says that during this time the Mormon church leader Brigham Young ordered villages in southern Utah to coalesce into towns of at least 150 men. Grafton and other Virgin River towns were deserted as townfolk consolidated in Rockville. Grafton farmers returned daily to tend to their hometown fields. By 1868, Grafton was resettled. So it looks like two of the young folks here, 13 and 14, Loretta Russell and Elizabeth Woodbury, passed away February 15, 1866. Accident, their swing broke. This is where the town was, and we're going to go just down the road here to a couple of the few remaining buildings. This first building here is a barn and outhouse that are connected to the John Wood home, which was built in 1877. Grafton was settled here in 1859. Around 1907, people started departing due to the flooding and populations. People were moving to Rockville, but eventually there were still folks here until eventually in 1944 was when the last resident departed. Probably a entry to a basement of some sort down there. So we know that the schoolhouse / church is the big building straight ahead. And then we have another one of the Russell home, Louisa Russell's home. Interesting looking toward Grafton in 1929, so you can see some of these buildings back in the 20s. And here's the Alonzo Russell home circa 1862 was when that was built. And this kind of gives a layout of where things are. As I mentioned, this is the church / schoolhouse. And according to the facts, there was a big flood around 1862, 3 years after the town had been established, and they rebuilt. Then they had the Indians issue with the Navajo. They resettled again, and by the early 1900s they built a canal that was sending a lot of water from the Virgin River down towards Rockville and some of those places, so that they were able to get more fertile land there with less problem of flooding. So a lot of people moved and left, and the last resident finally left around 1944, 1945. And apparently there are still reunions for Grafton, for descendants. Russell home here. And you can see they must have loved the views because it was beautiful. And thanks to the nearby Virgin River, the land was fairly fertile and provided for some decent farming for them. And we're not the only ones here. We've seen a number of cars coming through here today to check out the abandoned town of Grafton. And there's some steps out here. We can take a look into the building, or we'll try with the reflection. People of Grafton. This is a picture of a teacher with her class in 1906. That's pretty cool. And Grafton was used as a set for the movie Arizona Kid, filmed in Grafton in 1930. And below, a Grafton resident hosts a dinner for a group of convicts in this building after the men completed work on Highway 9 in 1916. These pictures show the preservation efforts restoring this historic schoolhouse and church. That's why it still looks really good right now. It's because they have done some restoration from it. It looked like it was maybe crumbling a little bit. And the Alonzo Russell home, severely damaged by vandalism and weather, was restored in 2004. So they have done some work to restore and maintain this so that it looks as close to what it did. But I'm trying to minimize the reflection in here. Obviously it's empty, but interesting nonetheless to see the inside of the schoolhouse. So that's pointing out you can see where some of the old brick and some of the new brick that has been replaced there. And you can see where it is sort of buckled or there was decay and crumbling, and how they've restored some of that. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And it's cool that they've preserved and restored a lot of this so we can see what was here. Basement down here.
It's a cellar.
Cellar. The cellar, yes. Thank you for the correction.
You're welcome. They were called cellars back then.
First, let's go down to the cellar. And yeah, we're not going to venture in here too much. You can see the steps. Yeah, iPhone does not provide much additional light. But there's the steps down to the cellar from inside the house. Coming up on the front of the Alonzo Russell home. Looks like Mrs. Russell must be home. Small room in the entry area here. And this would, of course, being a main living area. You have some signage on here for donating to the Heritage Foundation. And please do not vandalize our community by writing on the walls. Closet or pantry.
It's a cupboard under the stairs where Harry Potter lived.
Another small side room. And living here, they had a good view of the schoolhouse, and you can see there's quite a few people coming around. The ghost town that is not a ghost town. So rehabilitation of this building. It's listed on the National Historic Places. There's the back door. So this is quite a grand room right here. One corner to the end. Head upstairs. Yeah, these have been restored, so I don't think we're concerned about falling or anything like you might with an unrestored abandoned home, where you always have to be super hyper aware of those things. And right in here we got another upstairs bedroom. Outer room and then a second room within. Head back down the stairs. And they do say no camping. I think they know that people might say, hey, we could just camp out here, but no. They do keep things under surveillance here and do not want people camping on or around the property. And looking over here, hard to escape the views. And over here we got Louisa Russell's home. It's going to be a little smaller and a little less fancy. She did have a fireplace. You got the secondary rooms here. And these have not they've not received the same restoration. There is a restoration, but it's a little more rustic here for Louisa's home. Yeah, behind Louisa's home, it's quite possibly an outhouse or a storage room of some sort. Another angle of Louisa's home here. We looked at the historic plaque and it doesn't seem to indicate what this building was or who occupied it. It seems it's from around the same period, but it just isn't identified. That's Grafton. Hope you enjoyed this quick little tour of this interesting ghost town, abandoned since 1945, but receiving enough attention to get some restoration, and enough attention that apparently there's quite a few visitors. We've seen quite a few people who've driven down the dirt road to get here. But it's really cool that they've restored some of it, and you can see some of what life was like, some of the buildings that remain. So that's pretty cool. Do you like that?
Yeah,
like checking this out? Yeah, interesting. Check out a ghost town. A lot of times you may have to drive hours and hours to go, and this one's not that far out of town. But we're going to sign off now. Hope you enjoyed the tour of Grafton. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, share the video if you liked it. Have you been to Grafton, or have you been to another ghost town? Tell us about your experience with a ghost town. But remember, kids, have a good time all the time.